The room went completely still after he said it. Even through the haze of whatever they'd given me, I could see it. My dad's posture stiff, his eyes locked on the person standing beside my bed. Not angry, not confused, something else. Something closer to recognition and fear. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. I tried to move, but my body felt heavy, like it didn't belong to me. My throat burned when I swallowed. A nurse adjusted something beside me, and the steady beep of the monitor reminded me I was still here, still alive. My mom stepped in behind him, her voice small. What happened to her? But no one answered her. Not right away. Because everyone in that room was looking at the same person. And I couldn't fully turn my head, but I didn't need to. I already knew who it was. Marcus Hale, the last person my dad would ever expect to see near me, let alone standing there like he had every right to be. 3 hours ago, I was on the side of a highway, shaking so hard I could barely stand. Now I was in a hospital bed, hooked to machines with a police officer at the foot of it, and the one man my dad didn't trust watching over me like he'd been there the whole time. None of it made sense. Not how fast everything spiraled. Not how easily they believed Lily. Not how my dad didn't even look back when he drove away. And definitely not why Marcus was the one who found me. The officer cleared his throat. "Sir, we're going to need to go over what you were told earlier tonight." My dad didn't respond. He was still staring at Marcus. Then, slowly, his voice came out, tight, unsteady. "What exactly did she tell you, before you left her out there?" My dad had already decided I was guilty before I even opened my mouth. That's the part that keeps replaying. The speed of it. The way everything collapsed in minutes like it had been waiting to happen. It started at the dinner table. Nothing dramatic at first. Just silence stretched too thin, forks scraping plates, my mom avoiding eye contact like she always did when something was about to go wrong. Lily broke it. "She took it," she said, voice shaky in a way that sounded practiced. "I saw her." I remember blinking, confused. "Took what?" "The money," Lily snapped, louder now. "From Mom's drawer, and when I tried to stop her, she shoved me." My head actually tilted at that. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't make sense. "That's not—" "What are you talking about?" I said, looking straight at her. But Lily wouldn't meet my eyes. She stared at the table, then at our parents, like she was following a script. "She thinks I wouldn't say anything," she added quietly, "but I'm not covering for her anymore." That was it. That was the moment everything shifted. My dad stood up so fast his chair scraped hard against the floor. "Grace," he said, sharp and final. "Is that true?" "No," I said immediately. "No, that's not true. I didn't take anything and I didn't touch her." "She has a bruise," Lily cut in, pulling her sleeve back just enough to show a faint mark on her arm. "You can see it." I leaned forward. "That's from soccer practice. You told me that this morning." But my dad didn't even look at me. He was already walking toward the hallway. "Check her room," he told my mom. That was the second it stopped being a conversation. I followed them, heart pounding, trying to keep up as my mom went straight to my dresser, pulling drawers open like she already knew where to look. Clothes hit the floor. My backpack was dumped out. "Stop," I said, my voice cracking now. "You're not going to find anything because there's nothing there." But then my mom froze. She reached into the side pocket of my bag and pulled out an envelope. Cash. Too much cash. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like I couldn't breathe. "I didn't put that there," I said instantly, shaking my head. "I've never even seen that before." Lily stepped into the doorway behind us. Quiet, watching. "I told you," she said. And the worst part? No one questioned how it got there. Not one person asked anything else. My dad turned to me slowly, and the look on his face wasn't anger anymore. It was disgust. "Get your things," he said. I didn't move. "Dad, please, just listen." "I said get your things," he repeated, louder now. "Or don't, I don't care. You're not staying here tonight." My mom still hadn't said a word. 10 minutes later, I was in the car. No one speaking. the envelope sitting in my dad's lap like evidence no one needed to examine. I kept waiting for him to ask one question, just one. He never did. Instead, he pulled over on that empty stretch of highway, unlocked the door, and told me to get out. And as I stood there, watching the car disappear, one thought hit me harder than anything else. Lily didn't look nervous. She looked relieved. And I couldn't stop thinking about one thing she said. "I'm not covering for her anymore." Covering for what? Marcus didn't turn on the radio. He didn't make small talk. He just drove. The only sound in the car was the hum of the engine and my uneven breathing as I tried to warm my hands against the vents. I kept glancing at him, waiting for something, an explanation, a question, anything, but he stayed focused on the road like he already knew more than he was saying. Finally, I broke. "Why did you stop?" His grip tightened slightly on the wheel. "Because I saw your dad's car pulled over," he said. "Doors open, lights on, and then I saw you standing there alone." I swallowed. "That doesn't explain why you came back." He hesitated, just for a second. "Because something about it didn't feel right." I let that sit, but it didn't settle anything inside me. A few seconds passed before he spoke again. "What exactly did Lily say you did?" I stared straight ahead. My voice came out quieter than I expected. "She said I stole money from my mom, and that I shoved her when she tried to stop me." Marcus exhaled slowly, not surprised, not confused. "Did you?" he asked. "No," I said immediately. "I didn't take anything, and I didn't touch her. That money, she planted it. I know she did." Marcus nodded once, like he'd already considered that possibility. "I saw your sister earlier today," he said. That made me turn. "What?" "At a convenience store off Route 8, he continued. "She was with friends, laughing, carrying a drink in one hand, her phone in the other." My chest tightened. So she wasn't injured," he said plainly. "Not even close." Silence filled the car again, but this time it was heavier, because that didn't just mean she lied, it meant she planned it. "She showed them a bruise," I said slowly. "At home, said I caused it." Marcus shook his head slightly. "Then it happened after I saw her. Or she made it happen." A chill ran through me that had nothing to do with the cold. "Why would she do that?" I whispered. Marcus didn't answer right away. His jaw shifted like he was choosing his words carefully. "That's the part your father never wanted to look into," he said. I frowned. "What does that mean?" But before he could respond, my vision blurred. At first, I thought it was just exhaustion, my body finally catching up with everything. But then my hands started tingling. My chest felt tight, too tight. "Marcus," I said, my voice barely there. "I don't feel right." He looked over, and his expression changed instantly. "Hey, stay with me," he said sharply, pressing harder on the gas. "Grace, look at me." The road lights streaked past faster. My head fell back against the seat. "I'm trying," I murmured. But everything was slipping. The last thing I heard before the world went dark was Marcus's voice, louder now, urgent. "I'm not letting this happen again." And then, nothing. The first thing I heard was arguing. Low voices at first, sharp, controlled, but tense enough to cut through the fog in my head. My eyes didn't fully open, but I could make out shapes, movement, the steady rhythm of a monitor beside me. "Doesn't match what we were told," a man's voice said, firm, official, a police officer. Another voice responded, quieter but steady. "Marcus, that's because what you were told isn't what happened." I tried to move my hand. It barely twitched. "She was found on the side of a highway," the officer continued. "No phone, no shoes. You're saying her parents left her there based on an accusation?" "I'm saying they didn't ask enough questions," Marcus replied. A pause. Then the officer again, slower this time. "And the injury?" "There wasn't one," Marcus said. "Not when I saw her sister earlier." That word, sister, cut through everything. My breathing shifted, just enough that someone noticed. "She's waking up," a nurse said softly. Footsteps moved closer. I forced my eyes open just a little. The lights were too bright, but I could see outlines, machines, a curtain, someone standing near the door. Marcus didn't move far. He stayed exactly where he'd been. Time blurred again after that. Voices came and went. Questions floated around me, unanswered. But one thing stayed consistent. Marcus didn't leave. Then hours later, everything sharpened all at once. The door opened. Heavy footsteps. Familiar ones. My dad. I didn't need to see him clearly to recognize the way he moved. Controlled. Deliberate. But there was hesitation in it now. Something uncertain. "What condition is she in?" he asked, his voice lower than I'd ever heard it. The doctor answered, calm but direct. "Dehydration, early hypothermia, physical exhaustion. She's stable, but it could have been much worse." Silence followed that. A long, uncomfortable silence. Then my mom's voice, barely holding together. "That doesn't make sense. Lily said, that's what we need to clarify," the officer cut in. I forced my eyes open a little more. My dad stepped closer to the bed. I saw his face now, tension, confusion, and something starting to crack underneath. "This isn't what we were told," he said. "No," Marcus replied from beside me. "It's not." That's when my dad finally turned, really turned. His eyes landed on Marcus, and everything in his expression changed instantly. Recognition, then disbelief. His shoulders stiffened. His hands, those same hands that pointed me out of the car, started to shake. He took a slow step forward like he didn't trust what he was seeing. And then, in a voice that didn't sound like his anymore, he said, You saved her?" For a second, no one answered him. Marcus didn't step forward, didn't explain. He just stood there, steady, like this moment had been waiting for him too. "Yes," the officer said instead. "He found her on the highway, alone." My dad's eyes didn't leave Marcus. "That's not possible," he muttered. "You wouldn't—" "I turned around," Marcus cut in, calm but firm. "Because something about the way you drove off didn't sit right." Silence stretched tight across the room. The doctor glanced at the officer, then back at my parents. "There are a few things that don't line up with what your younger daughter reported." My mom shook her head immediately. "No, Lily wouldn't lie about something like this." "She already has," Marcus said. That landed hard. The officer stepped forward slightly, opening a small notepad. "We need to go over the sequence of events again, specifically the alleged theft and physical altercation." My dad's jaw tightened. "We already told you—" "And we're telling you," the officer interrupted, sharper now, "that the physical condition your daughter was found in doesn't support that version of events." A pause. Then Marcus added, quieter but more precise. "I saw Lily earlier that day. No bruise, no injury, nothing." My mom's face drained of color. "That's not— She showed us—" "Then it happened after," the officer said. "Or it was self-inflicted." The word hung in the air. Self-inflicted. I watched it hit my dad in real time, the shift from certainty to doubt, from anger to something heavier, something harder to carry. "There was money in Grace's bag," he said, but his voice had lost its edge. "Placed there," Marcus replied. "Conveniently." The officer nodded. "We will need to search the home and speak with your other daughter directly." Everything started moving after that. Questions turned into separate conversations. My parents were asked to step outside. The door closed behind them, but not before I caught a glimpse of my dad's face. He looked unsteady, like the ground he was standing on wasn't solid anymore. It didn't take long, not really. Lily's story started breaking the second it was repeated under pressure. Details shifted. Timelines didn't match. And when they checked her phone, messages, transactions, it all unraveled fast. She'd been taking money for months, small amounts at first, then more. And when she realized I was getting close to noticing, when I asked her that morning why Mom's drawer looked different, she made a decision. Redirect. Blame me before I could question her. The bruise? Done in the bathroom, hard enough to show, not enough to raise suspicion. The money? Slipped into my bag while I was downstairs. Everything lined up, everything except one thing. They didn't expect me to survive that highway. When my dad came back into the room later, he didn't stand as close this time. There was space between us now, not physical, something else. He started, then stopped. I watched him try again. I should have... His voice broke just slightly. I should have listened. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't hear him, but because there wasn't anything to say that would undo it. My mom cried quietly beside him, her hand covering her mouth. She didn't try to come closer. Marcus stayed where he was, not stepping in, not stepping out, just there. The consequences came quickly after. Lily didn't walk away from it. False reporting, theft, fabrication of evidence. It stacked up fast once everything was documented. The situation didn't disappear quietly. It spread, through extended family, through school, through people who had only heard one version before. And my parents, they had to answer for what they did too. Leaving a minor alone on a highway wasn't something that got ignored. There were investigations, questions they couldn't avoid, explanations that didn't hold up the way they thought they would. At home, things didn't go back to normal. There wasn't a normal to return to. A few days later, I was discharged. Morning light spilled through the hospital windows, soft, steady. Nothing like the darkness I remembered. I stood outside for the first time since that night, a bag in my hand, the air cool but manageable. My parents were there, waiting, but they didn't come too close. My dad looked like he wanted to say something again. Maybe he did, but this time I didn't wait for it. I stepped past them, not running, not angry, just done. Marcus was leaning against his car a few feet away. He didn't say anything either, just gave a small nod, like the choice was mine. And for the first time since that night, it was. I took a breath, steady this time, and walked forward. Because the night they left me on that highway didn't end out there in the dark. It ended the moment the truth walked into that hospital room and didn't leave.